Right, okay. This is the first episode of An Idiot's Opinion with me, Nick, Jack and Sean. I'm going to say hi, lads.
Yeah, so I'm Jack. I'm a plumber. I have a few hobbies. I enjoy keeping fit, martial arts. I love animals, and enjoy food.
We're going to put that on his Tinder page later on. What about you, Sean?
I'm Sean. I have no hobbies. I enjoy nothing.
Fair play, Sean.
That's not true, Sean. You enjoy playing FIFA and
That's
such.
my Tinder page.
So, what, you enjoy nothing? Well, that's going on your Tinder page, that?
Yep,
Fair play, Sean. You pick up some chicks with that.
I agree.
And I'm Nick. I don't know, my hobbies are, I like playing football. I'm at uni.
Football. You play football?
Your mum's ass. Thought about not saying it, but I can't not say it, gotta be natural. I enjoy, I don't know, keeping fit, food, similar to Jack, love animals. Have some strange obsession with Marvel, everything, and probably have some part of my brain that's about the age of a 6-year-old, 7-year-old. Yeah, that's about it. But we wanted to start this podcast just to provide people with something, with anything, just to take them away from what's going on at the moment, because obviously at the moment there's a lot of uncertainty and you know, fear in the world, and that's no different where we are, and we want to kind of help transport people from that fear and negativity to a little bit of time just to listen to us waffle on about our own opinions, and hopefully, you know, if it makes people laugh or smile or, you know, intrigued or even cringe the back off, then at least we're helping in some sort of way. But yeah.
Fair enough, yeah.
So we'll crack on. And the first topic we want to discuss, we've got a whole host of topics. This isn't a we don't want it to be a podcast centered around one topic completely as a series or whatever. We want it to be like completely open and completely almost kind of random. But the first topic we're gonna address is going to be based around football, and we're all very, very fond of it. We all follow it very closely. So we want to discuss the most underrated player in the Premier League in our own opinions. So yeah, we'll start with Jack. Jack, who's your most underrated player?
There's probably a few really, but ones who come to my mind, being a United fan, is Fred. For a long time, he got slated. Was called a terrible football player but it's one of them getting used to the Premier League. That's the way it is. If you look at Fabinho, plays for Liverpool. He started off, everyone was slating him, and look how good he. And then with Fred, he's really improved this season. There's another player as well who plays for Bournemouth. He's a young kid, a young Welsh kid. I can't remember his last name, but
Brooks.
He's a pro. Yeah, Brooks. That's it. I mean, he's not there yet, but he just came into my head. Then he's a future prospect. I think I can see a player in him. He seems like a proper good player in him. But yeah, I'd say Fred. Fred. He's not much of a goal scorer, but he's quite tenacious now. He runs around a lot. You know, he's aggressive for the ball. You know, he can do a job in that midfield role, so I'll go Fred.
Just before we carry on, I forgot to mention at the start that we obviously with the circumstances, having to self-isolate and having to stay in our own homes, the way that we're using at the moment, the to be able to get everyone in the podcast at once, we're using a voice call. So if the Wi-Fi or if the call goes a bit dodgy, that is why. So apologies for that. But yeah, so Sean, who's your most underrated player in the Premier League?
I'd say it's Fernandinho.
Okay, fair enough. Why is that, Sean?
I'm not a City fan, but for the last couple of seasons, you've got to watch and admire the fact that he's been the rock in their midfield. And yeah, sure, he doesn't get the goal. He's not he's not your De Bruyne. He's not your Aguero. But he's I think as they found out this season, with having to play him in defence, without him in midfield, they're falling apart.
That is true. Yeah, good point, Sean. Have you got anything else to add, Sean, to that? And can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say it's only in the last couple of years people have given him any credit, to be honest. But I think he's probably deserved it the whole time.
It's a good argument, that.
Is there any honourable mention, Sean? Anyone else who comes to mind? It's a bit of a tough topic, really, because there's so many players. But,
Yeah, I agree.
go on, is there anyone else, Sean, who comes to mind?
I suppose an honourable mention I'd give to Fabianski.
It's not a bad shout, He's been doing it for a while now, hasn't he?
Yes,
I forgot who he plays for.
The occasional world,
Plays for West Ham, doesn't he?
They're not doing really well at the moment, are they?
No, they're not. I think he's injured. I'm sure he's injured because they weren't playing him in net for the past few weeks before the season got postponed. But it's not a bad shout, that, to be fair, Fabianski. I guess I'll throw mine in there. There's a few that spring to mind, like the likes of probably, I think you could have argued probably about 4 months ago, Jack Grealish was one of them. But obviously, as time has gone by, he's got a bit more credit. Maybe someone like Diego Jota. I think he's class. I really do. I think that the Wolves team are very when they have the magnifying glass over them and the focus on them. Over the past few seasons, this season in particular, it's been very much Raul Jimenez, Traore, Ruben Neves, even Dendoncker and Moutinho at times. But Diego Jota doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, in my opinion. But
no, you're right there. He's a top player. They've got a really strong squad, Wolves.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be a shame to see him get picked apart really by the bigger teams when the transfer window opens. That's if it does.
Yeah, that's true.
If anyone believes.
They've got the money behind them. They can handle that pressure.
I think so.
I think that
It's not bad. I'd like Jimenez at United. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a good player, isn't he?
Yeah. Jota is though. I completely agree with Jota.
Also, half the teams from Portugal. They all play together internationally.
Well, yeah, they've all got a good link, haven't they? I think that you could also argue that maybe the whole Sheffield United team they're certainly overachieving, being I think the sixth, I think maybe. They're certainly overachieving, like the likes of Lundstrom and Stevens and John Fleck. They're all very all doing very well. But I have to say my most underrated player in the Prem, and it probably will be a little bit biased because obviously I'm a Liverpool fan, but it's for me it's Jordan Henderson. It really is. It really is Jordan Henderson. I can't divert. I can't formulate as good an argument for anyone else other than him. He's not the most technical footballer. He really isn't. He's not the cleanest. He's not the shiniest footballer. But what he lacks in maybe skill, he makes up for in leadership, because there is no player in the Premier League at the moment, no captain in the Premier League at the moment that is as commanding and as demanding as that man. Like, and you've got to consider as well, he came to Liverpool as a right midfielder from Sunderland. He came to Liverpool as a right midfielder. He got put in the middle by by Kenny Dalglish, sorry. Then Brendan Rodgers came in, and obviously it's well documented that Brendan wasn't a big fan of him as a player. Offered him to Hull to try and get Clint Dempsey in return. He also had a conversation with Jordan saying that he wanted Jordan to go out and play for Fulham, and I gave him an opportunity to go out and get first team football or stay at Liverpool and try to get first team football, but there was no guarantee. Henderson obviously said, I'm going to stay and try, and look how it's paid off, you know. And I think that he's only just getting the credit now that he deserves, and it might be an unpopular opinion, but he is for me.
I don't see how he's the most underrated player when people have been saying he's up for Player of the Year.
I think that people are saying that. I don't think they're saying it outwardly.
But I think the fact that, let's face it, the people calling for him to be Player of the Year, they've only popped up this year. I'd say they popped up maybe end of December at the very latest.
And I think they're only calling that because of how underrated he's been and is.
The reason why they're calling that is because he's the captain and Liverpool are winning the league. That's what I think. I think he's an okay player. I think he misplaces passes a lot. I think there's a lot better players of the ball and a lot of people with a lot better vision than him. I think he can see the passes. I don't think he can execute them the same as what he wants to. But like you say, yeah, he is a good leader. He's definitely got that about him. And he's demanding, like you say. You can see when he comes on the pitch, he's what he wants out of the players around him. But I think as a footballer, ability wise, I don't. He's good. He's very good. You know, he's Premier League player, captain. He's very good, but to me, he's not the best footballer. He's a good leader.
See, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that he's not the best, and I've thought that for years myself. However, I think watching Liverpool without him, they're actually not as good. And I don't know if that's purely for the fact that he's a good leader, or whether or not it's about the work rates and it's not just, you know.
Yeah, but I feel like you could play Fabinho as a CDM there. Then you could put Wijnaldum and Keita, or Wijnaldum and Milner, and I think you'd have just as good as, you know, if Milner's there. He wants the same. You know, he's the vice captain. He wants the same out of the team, doesn't he? You know what I mean? I feel like with them three there, you're just as good, if not better. I think if you had Fabinho and
you'd think that, but I just think through watching Liverpool, they're not. You'd expect them to be, you know, because let's face it, Henderson's often been criticised for being quite negative in his play.
Yeah,
but,
that's true. Yeah.
But what, you know, without him, I genuinely think that there is less threat and there's just less stability in the team.
Yeah, fair play, Sam.
The stats certainly support that. Liverpool with Henderson win more games. Liverpool without Henderson lose. You know, we didn't have him for Watford. We didn't have him for Atletico Madrid. Both legs. We didn't have him for Chelsea in the Cup. All these games we've lost in recent, you know, obviously not recent weeks, but the last few games we played. So I think we miss his influence on the pitch, because that obviously it clearly does. It's worth a lot more than maybe ability, because obviously we've got the three up front and the likes of the fullbacks that, you know, that can put the delivery in that they do.
Fair dues, isn't it?
But like I see every one of them players that we've mentioned are certainly class players in their own right. But I think if you're gonna, it depends on which way you look at it, because if you're gonna look at it and just purely based on ability, or not based on ability, but based on like maybe how valuable they are to the team, you could, if I were to put it into almost like a ranking system, I'd put Fred at the bottom. I'd probably put Henderson second, and I'd put Fernandinho first, just because of how poor Man City are without him. But then there is obviously an argument for that Fernandinho is still on the pitch, so he mustn't have the same influence as someone like Henderson does vocally. But, you know, I don't know. What do you think?
We all don't know, and that's the beauty in it. That is the beauty. We all just don't know. We all speculate, but we don't know.
I think there's the fact that both Henderson and Fernandinho have both captained club and country so far now.
True.
Which that probably has helped them with the whole influence thing.
I'd argue that Henderson's also had a big influence on the England team as well, because during that World Cup in 2018, given Harry Kane tore up in the groups, but England were more tight at the back, and they were well organised. And obviously Harry Kane isn't a leader that leads vocally. He doesn't shout. He doesn't demand. He's not like a that kind of player or that kind of captain where he leads by example. Whereas Henderson isn't. Henderson does shout and rant and rave and bark orders, and that obviously it did prove to be certainly helpful, if not successful, for England during the World Cup. So I'd say that Henderson has had more influence. Obviously, I don't fondly watch Brazil when they play, only in World Cups and stuff. But Brazil have a lot more talent than I'd argue England do. So I'd imagine that Brazil aren't as dependent on Fernandinho to be as much of a leader, because they've got the kind of the talent to fall back on, like from the likes of Neymar and Coutinho, Firmino, whoever else, you know. But that's that's just my opinion. But at the end of the day, I suppose if Henderson wins the Player of the Year, it certainly suggests that he isn't underrated anymore. So is that not how we judge underrated players? Maybe, like he's finally getting the recognition he deserves, and since he's got that recognition, he's then won the biggest individual trophy in the Premier League.
Possibly.
Put it down to, he's probably underrated down to the criticism that he gets as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because even with being in contention for these awards, he is still receiving the same criticism.
Yeah, that's true. I think Jack is right in what he's saying about his passing and stuff, because obviously there's no, just in my opinion again, there's no better passer in world football at the current moment. Maybe, well, no, there is, but I'd say Trent second. I was gonna argue he was first, but I think I can't argue against De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne's absolutely phenomenal. But
I don't know what I've watched quite a lot of both of them, and I don't know, there's something special by the way Trent Alexander-Arnold pings a ball. The way you can control the ball and just whip a ball from one end of the pitch to the other. The way he does it is pinpoint accuracy. It's I'd say maybe, I don't know. It's a different type of thing with De Bruyne. De Bruyne is like, you'll find that key pass that splits open a defence, whereas Trent can he's more of a crosser, and he can more cross it into good areas. But the way he whips a ball is unbelievable. The way he can pick someone out, it's amazing to see. He's got the sky's the limit for him, I think.
So yeah, I'd agree. They're probably a pretty level playing field with actual ability. I'd say at the moment you'd have to argue De Bruyne's got a bit more of a range, a bit more footballing.
Could you argue Could you argue if you put De Bruyne at right back and Trent at in midfield where De Bruyne plays, who would play better then?
Not really a valid argument with that.
No, I wouldn't say it's a valid argument. You'd imagine Trent would play better. I don't know. If you can't even, you don't know, do you?
Also, there's the fact that this person, Trent, generally does have the ball on the right wing. That's where he gets it. So the fact that he does play the same balls a lot, like regardless of quality, more down for that than he doesn't see them.
That is true. But back to the discussion point of the underrated players. I think that I wasn't a fan of Fred, and Jack and I have had many conversations while we've been watching United about how I think that Fred is terrible. And over the past few months, I think Jack will agree that I've certainly changed my opinion in that respect. If we go back to, I'd say maybe September, October, when I was slating him, and then if we fast forward all the way to the Manchester derby a few weeks ago, when I was singing his praises, it's almost like he's calmed down, like he's not, I wouldn't say he's justified what they paid for him or justified the time he's been given, but I'd say that he's brought I wouldn't say a new level of calmness, because I didn't watch him before they signed him, but I assume that's part of the reason why they brought him in, because he was a positive influence in the middle, which United desperately needed. But I'd argue that he's calmed down a lot, and he's almost started. It looks like he started believing in himself a bit more, and knowing that he is a lot more talented than what he's showcased in his first season at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say he's calmed down on the ball, but it's his work rate as well, and everything's improved. And I'd say part of that is to do with Bruno Fernandes. Everyone's took a step up since he's come in. Fred was already improved this season compared to last season, but since Bruno Fernandes has came into this team, every single player, more or less, has stepped up a mark, and I think that's part to do with what he wants out of him and the type of player he is, type of person he is. He drags it out of him. He wants to win, and for him to come in, and I feel he's really changed the attitude and the way people play for Man United.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've not seen a player for Man United have that much of an influence straight away since Zlatan came to United. I just think that he's elevated the kind of. It's almost like United kind of. Before he came in, it was like United were walking around with the shoulders slumped over. Now he's come in, United are walking around with the chest puffed out, like he's given
Before we came in, we were losing 2-0 at home to Burnley.
What a brilliant game that was.
That's where we've come from. Ollie was looking down the barrel of the gun. Ollie was going to get sacked. Well, he was close to it anyway. That's what it felt like. People were walking out the stadium at bloody just past half time. You know what I mean? People were all shocked. We left at 80 minutes because we're like, we're not sitting there watching this. You know what I mean? Why should we watch this? Martial had a terrible game. And but like I say, I wouldn't even say Zlatan had the impact in what Bruno did. Zlatan was more. He wanted more out of the team, but I don't think they rose to like his level. Whereas Bruno kind of he's kind of elevated everyone else with him. It's weird. It's weird, but it's just good. It's good to see.
Shall we crack on with it? Oh, sorry, go on, Sean.
I think part of it's the fact that this season there's less of the pressure that there would have been when he first joined. Because let's face it, he was following in the footsteps of someone like Fernandinho from Shakhtar Donetsk to the city of Manchester. Just it's the same path.
Mm-hmm.
He's also pretty much competing against Fabinho. It's pressure in it.
Oh,
That's probably gone a bit this season.
What do you mean? You on about Bruno Fernandes?
No, Fred.
Oh, Fred. So what are you trying to say?
The pressure that would have been on him when he arrived is probably less than it was.
Why?
Because of the time. He's let's face it, he's less competing for the national spot anymore.
Yeah, that is right. To be fair, is Fernandinho retired from international football?
I don't know.
Well, if he hasn't, he's aging. He's at 33 years of age, and so he's not going to be there for much longer. So obviously that would go in Fred's favour. But then I suppose he is Well, I can't really say he's competing against Fabinho because Fred's not a defensive midfielder, is he?
No, he's just a centre mid. That's what I mean. It's tough to know his position as well. He's like he's just, I'd say he's a holding midfielder really. He just runs around, kicking people really, and holding the ball, passing it. He's got a bit of flair, not too much on. He's not a good striker of the ball neither. Really, he's doesn't score many goals, but what he started doing, he does really well.
Okay, well, I mean, we've certainly made compelling arguments to the players we proposed, but obviously it's all the beauty of it. Like you said, it's all a matter of an opinion, isn't it? And I think that no matter what we say, obviously it's only our opinion, but but I think if we crack on with the next topic, which is a complete, almost polar opposite to football, is the land of the nerd, and it's our opinions on just Marvel MCU films. And I think that over the past 11-12 years, the MCU has grown in popularity, obviously, and in doing so, obviously they've pumped out more and more successful films because obviously they've been making more money to do so. And I think that some of the films they've made haven't actually, you don't get films like that win Oscars and win big awards, but I think that some of them just deserve to win something because they've been so good. But everyone has an opinion on these films. So what is your top 3 of Marvel films, of MCU films? Because obviously you got to remember that the Tobey Maguire era of Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield era of Spider-Man aren't MCU, be it classics, and Spider-Man 2 is undoubtedly one of the best films that Marvel have ever made. But strictly MCU films, what is the top 3? Rather than be it your top 3, what is the top 3? Start with Sean.
Are we talking mine or the? I didn't understand that.
We're going your own opinion. What is top 3 Marvel MCU films ever made? And can you speak up a bit?
Okay, so starting from 3.
Yeah.
It's a reasonably unpopular opinion, but I think it actually is one of the best ones. But I'd say Age of Ultron is number 3.
You know what? I can't say I agree. However, I do really like that film.
I'd say number 2. I'd say Infinity War.
Again, Can't say I agree, but I like the film.
And I'd say number 1 is Thor Ragnarok.
See, Thor Ragnarok again is sick and it's class, and I think it's one of the best MCU films. However, Sean, I know I asked for your opinion, and we all say that opinions can't be wrong, but Sean, your opinion is wrong. Jack, what about you?
Third, I'm gonna go with Rise of the Jedi. Fucking The Empire Strikes Back. I'm only joking. I'm gonna go. I'm not as big in Marvel as you two are, so I'm struggling to even think of 3. But my number 1, it's got to be Infinity War. What is that? The end? Is that the last one?
Endgame.
Endgame. I thought that was pretty awesome when they all came. Yeah, I'd probably go Ragnarok as number 3. I was going to say that anyway before Sean said it because I did enjoy that. Then maybe Endgame, and then Infinity War, then Endgame. That's what I'd probably go for. They're the films what I enjoyed the most.
I'd say.
Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on. Does this involve the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah. MCU's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, I'm gonna put Guardians of the Galaxy as number 1 then, probably.
Really?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that film when that first came out. Really enjoyed it. It's funny. It's got action. It's got it all. It's got it all, that film. So maybe Endgame second or something like that. It's hard to throw them ones out. They're such epic films, but Ragnarok as well is a great film. So
I think both your lists are good lists. Everyone that we've named has been good, but I'm going to be honest with you, you're both wrong. You're both terribly wrong. Number 3 is The Winter Soldier.
Wrong.
Because that is fun. That is just brilliant. That film. Number 2, right? And it's between 2, but I've left Thor Ragnarok out, even though it was good, and it was very good. However, 2 is the first Avengers film, because that was like nothing that anyone had ever seen before. Every superhero film that had been made in recent years had then been squashed together in one film, and everything at the time was pointing in the direction of, oh, that's not going to work, that's not going to be good, that's not going to be good. But the thing is it worked, and it was fucking brilliant, is what it was. However, number 1 is undoubtedly and by far, no argument, anyone else that says anything different is wrong. It is Endgame. It is 150% Endgame. There is no better. Endgame is the best film ever made. Never mind MCU film.
No, well, that's not true, but it's a good film.
Endgame is, in my opinion, the best film. Like, it's my favourite film, and I feel dirty almost saying it's my favourite film of all time because it's so new. I feel like a favourite film should be one that you've grown up with or you've watched and you've enjoyed that much that you've revisited it over the years and you can always come back to it. Whereas this has obviously only been out on DVD for I don't know, less than half a year, something like that. So, but I can't turn a blind eye to how amazing it is. It is the best MCU film ever made, and they will take some topping to beat that by a country mile.
Yeah, it's a top film, but you're wrong. No, you've got a point, but I feel like missing out Guardians of the Galaxy. I feel like that's another top film. That really top film, the first one.
I'm gonna be really unpopular when I say this, but I think Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is better than 1.
Oh, that's fucking gross. But it was a good film, but it's not as good as the first.
I'm going to be even more unpopular and say I don't actually think either of those films deserve to crack any top 3.
Sean,
or even top 5.
Sean! Shut your fucking mouth.
Because I think the majority of popularity from them films comes from the soundtracks.
It's a good point.
That's all part of the film. That is, in my opinion, that's all part of the film.
Yeah.
The way they integrate music into the film and stuff like that. It's like
I agree.
I just watched on Netflix.
They've done that the best. They've integrated the best. I just think the actual story from those films just doesn't come close to the rest of the Marvel universe.
It's the overall feeling that you get from a film. It's what you. I'm not saying for everyone. Maybe you don't enjoy it that much, that stuff that much. But for me, the overall feeling what you get from a film and how well it's put together. Like I said, that film to me, it had everything. It had everything, that film. And it's like, I watched a series called Ragnarok on Netflix recently, which it isn't Marvel, but it's to do with Thor. And partly the reason why I enjoyed that so much is because I really enjoyed the soundtrack to it, and the time when they use the music is key, and the type of music they use, and it fits well, and it makes you, it's dramatic, it makes you feel it more. So, but for me, I'm a big music fan as well, so that all plays a big factor and makes the film better.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, like, I've started very late, but I've started watching Suits, and I think that Suits' soundtrack, the music that they put with it, makes, because the whole theme of Suits is that they're all lawyers and they're all perceived to be really cool and like not so much untouchable, but very kind of, they have some swagger about them, and the music that they put with it enhances that, and it like exemplifies the swagger that these people have. Or at times when it's a low moment, they put music with it that works really well. So I think that the music that they put with these MCU films is key. I agree, but Sean, I can't listen to you tell me that the Guardian stories aren't good or as good.
I've not said they're not good. There's no. I don't think if you take the story away from the music, people would care as much.
I just think that, like, obviously, I grew up reading the Marvel comics and watching the Marvel cartoons, the classics, and the storyline that included Ego the Living Planet was boss, but it was he was a planet, and he didn't really embody a person. So I understand that they've done that obviously for that reason, but the Infinity Gauntlet saga was boss, and obviously I'm obviously very heavily, obsessed is probably the right word, with Spider-Man, and every storyline that he's been in has been class, but I can't bring myself to avoid saying that the Winter Soldier storyline probably take away the Endgame, because obviously that it did happen in a sense in the comics, but it was very, obviously it's been modernized quite a bit because they want to try and make it as modern as possible. But the Winter Soldier storyline was one of the most shocking and amazing storylines there was, and in the comics that wasn't how, because obviously in the films the Civil War was stemmed from Captain America's relationship with the Winter Soldier, but in the comics the Civil War didn't come from that. So that storyline had lots more scope that hopefully will be explored in the Disney Plus series of Falcon and Winter Soldier. But I just think that the storylines go, that is the best. But Guardians is, Sean, you can't say that. You just can't.
I've actually never watched Winter Soldier.
Right, well, your sister got Disney Plus, didn't she? So you've got free access to it. Get on that and watch Winter Soldier. And then in the next episode of this podcast, I want to know exactly what you think of it, and I want to know that it is in your top 3.
Did you watch Civil War?
Yeah, you came with me, didn't you?
Yeah, but like, this is what I mean. And everyone's like, "What's his name?" Him now.
Which
In
one?
with the bionic arm.
Oh, Bucky.
Bucky, yeah, he's the Winter Soldier, isn't he?
Yeah.
But I'm like, and everyone's like, oh, it's the Winter Soldier. I'm like, who the fuck's that?
Honestly, when I read the comics, I don't know, I wasn't old. I wasn't old at all. So it was one of them moments when I watched the film. It was like, you know, like a brief shock, and then you remember. But that brief shock was one of the most, like, it was for maybe a couple of seconds. It was one of the best plot twists I've ever seen in an MCU film. Because obviously in the first Avenger, Captain America had such a strong relationship with him, and then everyone thought that Bucky had died, and it was that, and that was that. And then you get to like present day, and then there he is, and I just think it's boss. I really do, and I think I highly do recommend you watch that film because it'll blow your mind.
I'm sure I will watch it pretty soon.
Saying you've never seen The Winter Soldier is like saying you never watched Star Wars.
Well, it's just no.
In this modern day, in my opinion,
It's not.
It's just you got to watch it.
Star Wars is a whole series of films.
So
Missing one Marvel film out of all of them is it's not the same as missing a full series of films.
Well, I know what you mean. I suppose, yeah. I suppose, yeah. I know what you said. I know what you're saying. Rather than a franchise, it's a film, yeah. But yeah.
Well, it's a reasonably important film in the franchise.
No. Well, it's not overly important, but it's not. It's certainly relevant.
It kicks off the whole event to Civil War, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it shuts down Shield as well. So it does certainly do that. But I would have loved for Adam Zola to have had a bit more kind of involvement. I think that in the comics and the cartoons. Pardon?
That was the Nazi scientist guy.
Yeah. But
Okay.
but in the comics he was like he was a proper villain. Like, I know he was a bit of a villain in this one, but he wasn't like he was like a proper, like a kind of low key or whatever. And that's why, and the last one as well, Zemo in Civil War, Helmut Zemo. In the comics, Baron Zemo was, in the film it was his dad, but in the comics his enemy was Baron Zemo, and that's being explored as well in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, which is good because he never got, like, them two were both relevant villains for Captain America, but they never really got, the only one that got the recognition, I think it was the Red Skull, wasn't it? So but you know, I just think that there's a lot of good films.
Crossbones as well.
Pardon?
Crossbones as well.
Crossbones, yeah, you're right. He never got the recognition either, which is a shame.
He got more recognition before he became Crossbones.
Exactly. So I think that there's just, obviously there was a lot. They've wasted a lot of Captain America villains, really, in all honesty. But hopefully, they've got obviously the opportunity to go back and revisit them. So it's not the end of the world, because there's rumours that Ultron is still there and knocking about, because obviously he's in AI. Arnim Zola is for all intents and purposes in AI as well. So I think that they've certainly got a lot of room to move. But I just think, as far as best films go, you both just, unless, Sean, did you say Endgame was the best film?
No, it comes fourth in my opinion.
Fourth? Oh, Sean. Did you kiss your mother with that mouth?
I think Infinity War was better than Endgame.
Infinity War was better than Endgame. Sean, there is absolutely no scene ever in the MCU that was better than watching all of them line up. There just wasn't, and I'm aware that the MCU contains the scenes of Robert Downey Jr. saying "I am Iron Man," not once but twice, and clicking at the end of one of them. So I feel you, but there's no scene better than that. Absolutely nothing.
I disagree. I think the best scene out of the entire thing was the scene with Loki and Hulk.
Sean. How? Oh, Sean. See, this is for the viewers. This is what we're or the listeners. This is what we're dealing with. but yeah. Fair enough. But I'm gonna be honest. You're both wrong. Endgame's best. Endgame's number one.
Jack can weigh in out with his favourite scene.
Pardon?
Jack can weigh in with what he thinks is the best scene.
What's the best scene, Joe?
Best scene of any Marvel film. Also, I've got. It just came to me then. Black Panther's a pretty good film. Quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, that one a bit of a wad. But you are a bit mainstream saying that. You're basic saying that now.
Why?
Because everyone was obsessed with it, and I think you go back to the
He's a cool character.
He is a cool character, but you go back to the argument made earlier on about the music. The music made that film probably twice as good as it was because it was Kendrick Lamar, wasn't it?
I don't even know music.
It was Kendrick Lamar made the soundtrack for it, didn't he? But I'm gonna throw it out there. Black Panther's a cool character, and he's gonna be a big player, a heavy player in the next few phases. However, Black Panther.
Yeah. Right.
But M'Baku is better than Black Panther, in my opinion.
Who's M'Baku?
Is that the white gorilla?
Yeah.
The white gorilla?
Yeah. Man-ape.
Oh, that's just racist. Is he white?
No.
Well, is he a white gorilla then?
He's just called the white gorilla, but he's called Man-ape in the comics.
Which one's he? Is he the big one who we had a fight with?
Yeah.
Well, why are you saying he's not better? How is he better?
He's just cool as fuck. I like him. I really do. I think he's awesome. But the thing is, in the comics, he was a villain. He was against Black Panther, and obviously they settled a truce, and now they're mates. So I don't see them turning because the next. Pardon?
I respect the king. It's all about the king.
I think they're not going to go back. They're not going to go back to make Man-Ape his villain because I think they're looking at introducing Namor, which is the Marvel equivalent of Aquaman. But Namor was made before Aquaman. Just saying. But they alluded to that in Endgame when, excuse me, Okoye said to Black Widow that there was an earthquake under the ocean. That was supposedly had something to do with setting up the new Black Panther film. But
my favourite scene. I don't know. I'm not not a big Marvel guy, but well, I am. I do like the Marvel, but it's tough to remember them all, really. Like in Ragnarok when Thor and the Hulk was in the Colosseum, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'd have to go with the end game, the final battle type thing. You know, when Thor turns up at the end and that. Yeah. All that. He's got the axe. He has the axe, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an Infinity War.
Oh, that's Infinity War.
Oh, is it? I'm not sure. One of them. The big battles. I like the big battles as well.
I do. I see where you're coming from with Thor coming into Wakanda. That is iconic and that's sick. But yeah, that's at the end of the day, that is just our opinion. Be it an idiot's one, it is our opinion.
Correct.
So, obviously, the idea of this podcast isn't to convince anyone or to do anything like that. It's just to express our views of different things and different topics. And like I said before, if we can do that and make someone smile or laugh, anyone, even if there's one person listening, even if it's us, do you know what I mean? If we get any form of enjoyment from this and it takes us away from what's going on, then that's good. If we can help anyone else, then that's even better. And even if that is one person that listens to it and laughs or finds it funny, because obviously with the topics we're going to discuss, some of them are serious, some of them aren't. Some of them some days it's going to be more funny than others, and you know there's going to be more banter, you know, because in some of the next few episodes we're gonna touch on whether pineapple belongs on pizza and barbecue base is an acceptable thing to put on a pizza, which is exactly what I'm going to go and eat in a minute. So
Jesus Christ. You're going to have a barbecue-based pizza with pineapple on it?
No, just a barbecue base. I didn't get the pineapple on it. But yeah, but we've hit about 50 minutes, so we'll call it a day there. But yeah, I suppose.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you very much for wasting 50 minutes of your time, and hopefully, you know, we made you smile at some point. Anything you want to say, Sean?
Peace out.
Yeah, true. Thanks for wasting your life.
Fair play. I agree. Thanks for wasting your time. But yeah, nice one, and see you later.